I thank my friend and colleague from West Virginia. I appreciate his passion for this issue, and over the years, he has fought hard for our miners in every different respect, as has his colleague from West Virginia, who's in the chair right now, Senator Capito. They need us right now, and he's absolutely right. We've got a bill on the floor of the United States Senate that provides for essentially the bankruptcy of Puerto Rico. Right? So I'm not being critical of that legislation. I know Puerto Rico needs help, but I also know that the people I represent need help, and the people who these two senators represent, and Senator Brown, who spoke earlier. So all we're asking for is give us a chance. We have legislation that's been carefully crafted with the United Mine Workers, with the coal companies, on a bipartisan basis. This is legislation that is fiscally responsible. My own view, for what it's worth, is that if we don't help now, it's very likely there could be later a need for significant funding from the taxpayer. Why? Because, unfortunately, we're in a situation now where, because of all these bankruptcies of these coal companies, and we can talk about, the policy toward the coal companies and the policies toward coal in this country, but the reality is there are a lot of companies in places like Ohio and West Virginia and other states out west that are either in bankruptcy or heading toward bankruptcy, and the people who are getting left behind are these coal miners who worked hard, played by the rules, have their pension, have their health care lined up, but because of the bankruptcies, they now find themselves on the outside. Currently, by the way, these mine worker pensions are relatively modest. $530 per month is the average. They're headed toward bankruptcy, by the way, within 5 to 10 years. There are 90,000 coal miners. My colleague said closer to 100,000, over 90,000 coal miners affected here. In Ohio alone, it's over 6,000 coal miners. When that pension goes bankrupt in 5 to 10 years, there is no guarantee, as I see it, that the PBGC, that's the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, that the PBGC is going to be there, because that agency is also in trouble. So these mine workers who have sacrificed so much for so long, working in the mines, again, working hard, playing by the rules, help power this nation, could be left with no pensions. That's simply not acceptable. And there's a further issue that some folks aren't focused on yet, but will be soon in a lot of our states, and that's that there are about 20,000 of these retired coal miners who may well lose their retiree health coverage at the end of this year. So this is not down the road. This is now. This is this year. Again, these miners spent their careers in dangerous jobs. These jobs resulted in higher rates of injury, disease, cancer, and they're therefore especially dependent on these health benefits, and they've earned them. This would be devastating to those families to lose those benefits. So our solution, again, a bipartisan solution, Senator Capito was here, Senator Manchin, Senator Brown was here, others. Our solution is to have no interruption in these family health benefits, keep the pension plan solvent so it doesn't go under, so we don't have to have a bailout, and we can do it with a fund that is currently available. Senator Manchin talked for a moment about how this is something that can be handled under our current fiscal situation. As some of you know, I'm a fiscal hawk, and I wouldn't have signed up to this bill if I didn't see a way to pay for it. The money would come from a miners' health fund that is currently spending over about half of its annual allocation. The fund allows for $490 million in annual spending for retired miners. Currently, it's spending closer to $225 million. So that fund is available. Our point is, why not use the rest of that authority for that fund to be able to spend the money to save the miners' pensions and make sure none of them lose their health coverage? And again, I think this solution may well cost less money than simply allowing the plan to go bankrupt, which is the other alternative. Because then I think it's very likely you'd end up with a major bailout, and the taxpayers would be asked to pick up the rest. So who are these miners? In the last several years, I've been at some of the coal mines in Ohio. I've been at above-ground coal mines. I've been under the ground, 600 feet with coal miners. I've had the opportunity to visit 3 coal mines, one twice. Coal miners also come to a lot of my other meetings. They come and they speak up. They talk about why they believe that they deserve to be treated fairly. They have powered this nation. Ohio is 70% coal dependent right now for our electricity. Many states represented here are even higher. Some, virtually all the electricity comes from coal. It's a hard job. Again, when you're underground several hundred feet and you see the kind of work that they do, you learn to appreciate the fact that they are taking a risk every day, and they do have additional health problems because of it. And so these are people who not just power our country, but power their communities. They're engaged and involved in their communities. They want to be sure these smaller rural communities can stay vibrant, and losing that pension and losing that health care benefit obviously hurts those communities. These are people who have played by the rules, as I said earlier. They're patriotic, hardworking Americans who deserve our help right now because of this pending bankruptcy. And again, why on this bill? It's not about my opposition to the underlying bill, but it is about my insistence that we have a vote. And I intend not to vote to move forward with the Puerto Rico bill unless we get our vote. And it's appropriate. If we're going to help Puerto Rico escape bankruptcy, then we should also help the 900,000 or the 90,000 miners we talked about in West Virginia, in Ohio, in other states who are suffering the effects of these coal bankruptcies. They don't deserve to be left behind as the Senate addresses other bankruptcies. So again, I want to thank my colleagues who are here. The presiding officer kindly took the chair so that I could make these remarks. I'm going to go replace her now and have the opportunity to listen to this debate from the chair. And I want to thank my colleagues for their willingness to stand up at this crucial time to say this is our opportunity to be heard. It's all we're asking for. Let's have a vote. I think if we did have a vote and all of my colleagues knew the facts around this issue, I think we'd be successful. And we'd be able to help allow these miners to get the benefits that they deserve. Yield back to my colleague.